And David Bruno, I've got to ask you, at the end of the day, at its very core, this is going to be a self-defense case for the defense. Do you think that's going to fly here? Is there some interpretation of the facts in this case that can convince a juror or any number of jurors that this was, in fact, a self-defense situation?
Yeah, the self-defense also, there's going to be that issue of who pulled that trigger. I think the defendant has already said, or it's already been thrown out there, that there was the struggle over the weapon and then the victim pulled the trigger, which is going to be factually interesting, especially in light of the intro to the case, which is that the victim's DNA was found on the weapon. And I wonder whether or not there's going to be expert testimony about the trigger pull, about whether or not it could be physically possible, because that could be another factual issue in addition to the self-defense. And then if I'm on the defense side, I'm going to be looking for jurors that are sympathetic to the defendant. I mean, she's following him because she believes he's under the influence. And then there's going to be that evidential issue, whether the judge is going to allow the drugs that was found in the victim's vehicle, because that could have been a reason for him to flee as opposed to go to the hospital to get medical help. So interesting case and some interesting issues in it.
Yeah, I think what they have, David, is eyewitnesses and even some video that shows the defendant walking up to the car. She had initially told the police that he came out of the car. Not happened. She went up to the car. Apparently, one of the witnesses will say that she was punching into the car, and that's when the tussle took place, and ultimately you can't tell exactly from the video or the witness what happened with the gun once she put that inside the car. And I just can't shake the idea that the simple fact that she introduced a gun to this situation, really, and she's the aggressor, that takes away the opportunity to argue self-defense.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Michael, factually speaking, I think she's good all the way to the place where she gets out of the vehicle. I mean, she gets out of the vehicle, she cuts in front of him, and then there's the tussle. And to your point, she brings that gun. So if I'm the defense attorney, I'm going to be arguing the factual dispute at the door and then hoping that I get some sympathetic jurors that are going to look at my client friendly as a result of being the good Samaritan right there, trying to save the community from this, what appeared to be a distressed or drunk driver.
Yeah. It is time now for our Talk Back segment. Each day, we post a question on Court TV's social media pages. We gather your comments and questions and respond right here on the show. Jury selection began yesterday in the case against Hannah Payne. She's the 25-year-old Georgia woman accused of fatally shooting a man after following him from the scene of a crash. So we asked you, what are your thoughts ahead of the car crash vigilante trial? All right, still with us, criminal defense attorney David Bruno, trial attorney Wendy Patrick. All right, guys, let's go to our first comment, and that comes from Carol. Carol says, why would you want to chase someone instead of just taking his license plate number? Doesn't make sense. I hope she is found guilty. And David, I think at the essence of that question is where we get to the malice murder, right? The idea is, why would you follow someone under those circumstances? Now, she claimed, again, that she thought he was dangerous and she wanted to stop him from maybe hurting someone else. There's that aspect of it, but then there's another way to look at it, like Carol does.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think what does not help her at all, too, is the 911 operator telling her not to follow. I mean, obviously, the reason the 911 operator is saying not to follow is because of the danger and the risk that she's putting herself into. So to your point about that self-defense argument, she's putting herself there. And, yeah, the question is, why would someone go and do that? I mean, I think she's good up until the point where she gets out of that car with the weapon. And I think that there's enough for the prosecutor to convict. But if the defendant could find some jurors that find her sympathetic, maybe they can get a mistrial or maybe even a not guilty.
Yeah, and I'm not sure she got out of that car with the intent to kill. But certainly the prospect was there, and she should be found guilty of something. Our next comment comes from a viewer on X, or now formerly known as Twitter. This isn't a video game. People shouldn't be able to just kill folks and come home for dinner. The impulsive, I am going to do what I want anyway, people need to be held accountable. When they've been told to stand down, they need to take responsibility for their actions after. I don't know if I could have said it better there, David. At the end of the day, taking responsibility for your actions and making that decision is really where the rubber hits the road in this case.
Yeah, it seems to be the consensus by all our talkback viewers here, pro-prosecution on this case. We're going to have to see. And the defense got the statement out. Remember, the defense attorney says the excited utterance is able to come out. So I wonder, they're going to be able to get a lot of her versions out. I'm going to wonder if she's going to actually take the stand and have to be cross-examined. It's going to be a very difficult decision for the defense attorney at the end.